Thanks for that. All right, so this is kind of like a prequel to getting started. So for those of you who already have square paper, that's great. I just made a bunch of these over the past couple of days out of regular printer paper. So for those of you who don't have square paper, you can make a square out of any shape of paper. Well, mostly out of rectangles is how I'm gonna do it. So if you have some funky like trapezoid paper, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to help you, but if you have just regular printer paper, I'm using an old syllabus for a class, I can show you how to make a square. So for most of these, I find it easier to use a slightly smaller size. Some of you might want a larger size. So the way, if you want to make a really big square out of printer paper, all you need to do is fold one of the corners down to meet the side like this. Try to get a nice sharp point in the corner. I'm actually, I don't have like a special hand camera, so you can see what I'm doing when I'm using a surface to make a crease, but I can show you right after. You just want to fold down a corner like that. And you want to, one of like the general things with origami is you want the corners and the edges to match up as close as you can. So the better you can do that, the better it's going to look. And the other important thing is when you're making a crease, you want it to be as sharp as possible. So some people like to like run a fingernail down the crease like that. That's not always necessary, but if you like to make your creases really sharp, that's one really good way to do it. So once you have your triangle, the way you get this into a square is you just fold this piece at the bottom up and over the triangle. So the crease is right at the bottom of the triangle. So I will show you in just a second. Like this. So now you have a big triangle with a little flap at the bottom. And then what you can do is either tear this flap off or just cut it off with scissors, and you will be left with a perfect square. And then if this square is too big, if you're using regular size printer paper, you can just fold that in half and in half again, and you will be left with 4 squares. Yep, so if you unfold this bottom flap, all you need to do is cut it off or tear it off, and you'll have square. So I'll give you a minute to, I always just fold it back and forth a bunch of times and then tear it off. Just because I'm not very accurate with scissors, so I get better results that way. But you get nicer, clean lines with scissors. So now I have one square piece of paper that I could use for any of these. I will hang on to that. All right. Is everyone good with paper for now? Or do you want a few more minutes? Does anyone want a few more minutes to get their paper ready? All right, I think we're good. So we're going to move on to the first thing that we're going to make, which is a wolf or a dog. I think it looks more like a fox, but most places seem to call this a wolf. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna start with some simpler models, and then we're gonna get to some pretty tricky ones. So some of the tricky ones, I've been doing origami for a while, some of them are a little bit tough, but the ones at the beginning will be pretty fun for anyone who may or may not be a beginner. All right, so for this first one, what we're gonna do, if you actually made your paper the way I just did, your first step is done for you because it's folded into a triangle. So if you have an unfolded piece of paper, you're just gonna fold one corner to the other diagonally and crease this fold. Okay, and remember to make sure that the corners are all matched up and the crease is nice and sharp. And then we can move on to the next step, which we're actually just going to fold the paper in half diagonally once again. So you're going to take this corner, move it to this corner, and fold it like that. So now we just have a smaller triangle. And you'll notice that this one, it has an open side and a closed side. So you want to keep track of which one is which. And then we're actually going to do this one more time. So you're going to do one more, wait, hold on. Sorry, this is a model that I don't do a lot. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is actually, so you'll notice there's kind of two flaps at the bottom here. You're going to take one flap and fold it up to the top to make the point and make a crease. So you should be left with something like this. And then once you're done with that, you're going to flip it over to the other side and do the exact same thing. So now you still have one closed end and one open end. And what you're going to do is make sure that open end that kind of has three corners to it is pointing up. And now you're going to take the closed end and fold it in just a little bit. This is going to be the tail. So it should look like this. And you want this, the bottom to match up with the bottom of the triangle. So it's just a little tail like this.
Could you do that one, that fold up part again, please?
Yeah. So once, so you start with big triangle, fold it in half once. So now you have two flaps on this one side. You're going to fold both of them towards the outside. So you fold one up first, and then the second one up on the other side. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Okay. Yep, and then you'll have one open side with kind of three flaps and one closed side. And the closed, you want the open side pointing up, and then the closed side is what you're going to want to fold in to make the tail. So once you guys have the tail done, now we're going to make it's kind of just one more step, is making the face and the ears. So you want the side with the tail, I'm having it facing away from me so you guys can see a little bit better, but you want that facing towards you. And you're actually going to take this outer flap on the open side, and you're going to fold it, yeah, so about this much, however much looks right to you. Just take that flap and fold it out. And you're actually not going to be taking just the farthest flap, you want to take the middle too. So it should look kind of like this. So I have kind of one open over here, and I've taken the other one and pulled it out here.
Can you explain that again? Like, I have the three flaps facing up, but what do I fold over?
So if you're looking at the three flaps like this, you want to take go right in the middle of all of them, and then fold one of them in towards the tail. So one of them in towards this fold that you just made. And this, for now, it's easiest just to crease it at the bottom. And then once you've done that, the last step is just to fold this flap right here. That's kind of sticking out. Once you've done that, is just to push it down. And then you have a little wolf or fox. So I can actually just go over, like, make that entire thing one more time. Is everyone getting that last step, or are people still confused? Okay, let's see, triangle. Yeah, so fold it in half diagonally, fold it in half again. It's the first two steps. So now I have a triangle with two flaps on one side and no flaps on the other, or just the one flap, I guess. You fold both sides up to the outside and up again. So now you have, oh, that's really cute. Some of you guys have some really cute ones. So now you have a closed side and an open side up at the top. You take the closed side and fold it in to make the tail. Now with the open side, from the top, you have 3 flaps, but if you look from the bottom, there's just 2. You take the flap on the same side as you folded the tail, and you just fold that out a little bit to match the bottom. Hold on, sometimes I do actually have to look at it. Yeah, so you just take that bottom and fold it out like this.
Lara,
So
I
if you're
still
looking
can't get that step.
If you're looking at the open side, there's kind of 3 flaps at the top, and
Yeah,
there's 2 flaps at the bottom.
yeah.
So starting from the bottom, you take the flap that's on the same side as that the tail's pointing to, and then just from the bottom, you're going to fold it out to meet the rest of the side. Just maybe just a little bit, depending on the size of your paper. But you can mess with that proportion after you've done it.
I don't really get it from the tail part on.
So Gabby, can you actually like hold yours up so I can see? Okay, did you fold? Wait. Can you like hold it up the way I am with like the tail facing me? Yeah, so it looks like you're doing the right thing. You're not folding it on an angle, you're folding the flap out so the bottom matches up with the bottom edge. So just the very bottom. Yeah.
Oh, like that.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. And then you just want to pinch this flap down to flatten out the head. And then you have your little wolf. Yeah, you might want to fold that flap out just a little bit farther. So it's not such a very skinny wolf. But yeah, that's it. Now, here are my wolves. I will set to the side. Does anyone have any more questions about this particular model? I can go over it one more time if you guys want before moving on. So I think the first 2 steps, everyone is cool on those. Oh, those are so cute. Yes, please, if you have your video on, show me your models. I love to see them. So once you've folded it in half diagonally and then in half again, you have, yeah, that's really cute. You have an open side and a closed side, and you're going to take the open side, fold it up, and then on the other side again, fold up the other flap. So you have a triangle that on one side it's closed, and on one side it's open with 2 flaps at the top, and then, or 2 flaps at the bottom, and then 3 flaps at the top. So once you have this, you're going to fold the tail. So you're going to take the closed side, and you want to make sure that it's oriented like this, with the closed side here, the 3 flaps at the top, and the 2 flaps at the bottom. You're going to just fold in a little bit of like a little triangle, so to make the tail. So just make one little fold that meets the bottom. And then the last step, which I don't think I'm describing very well, but so starting from the bottom where there's 2 flaps, you just take one side and just fold it out to meet the side that the tail is pointing to. So I'm just taking this side and folding it straight out not diagonally. So this flap meets the bottom of the triangle. And then once you have that, you just flatten this part that's sticking out. That's going to be the face. I was getting a little bit off. Yep, there we go. So you just flatten the face, and then you have your little wolf. All right, so I think we're going to move on from these. And now we're going to make, it's called a samurai helmet. I just think they're cute to put on. I don't know how tolerant your pets are. It's a little bit big for my pet because he's a gecko. But if you have like a really chill cat or something, this would make a great hat for them. Or if you want to use a really big square of paper, it could be a cool hat for you. So actually, one of the cool things about this is it starts with a base that is actually used relatively often in origami. So we're going to be making a couple of those, but this one starts with what's called a helmet base. And the way you make that is you start off exactly the same by folding it diagonally to make one big triangle. And then once you have your triangle, you're going to fold each corner up into the top. So you're going to put that corner right at the top, line up the edge, and then make sure to make that fold. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So you're folding both flaps in the same way so that the corners meet the top. And this is called a helmet base. Everyone have their helmet base. All right, yeah, it's not a hat yet. We're getting there. All right, so the next step is you're going to take these two flaps that are at the front. So this one has an open side and a closed side. So you want to take the flaps on the open side and fold them each up to meet the top corner. So this is the first one. And then now I'm going to fold up the second one. So match the corner of the flap to the top and then crease the bottom. So now you have something like this. All right, so once that's done, we're gonna kind of be making like the fancy horned part of the helmet. So this part, you're going to fold these flaps out a little bit like this. It's about halfway to the corner, but it doesn't have to be exact. So it sticks out like that. And then you're going to do the same on the other side. So I'm just folding these corners out like this to make little decorations for the helmet. Yep, looking good. All right, so now we're going to be doing the hat part. So you'll notice there's kind of two flaps. If you go to the closed side, there's two flaps at the bottom. You want to take just the front flap and fold it up, not all the way to the top. You want to leave a little bit of space. So maybe about to there, if you can see where I folded mine to, there's about, well, half of one of my fingertips at the top. So if you can judge whether or not you have Lara-sized hands. And so you want to match it to the middle, but not all the way to the top. And so then you're just going to crease this down here. And then this is second to last step. Once you have this, is you're going to take this bottom part and just fold it up kind of to make like a hat brim. That's hard. I need like a surface to do that one on. So you're just folding up this flap that was down here. You're folding it to meet the top part of your little helmet. And that'll kind of keep all of these folds that you just made on the top in place. All right, so once you have that little hat brim done, last step is just to take this flap at the back. So I've flipped it over. So you're looking at the plain side, take this flap and fold it up to meet the top. And then if you flip back over, it's now open at the bottom. And you have a little hat. Yeah. Those look very nice. I don't know if they're quite the right size for any of you, but if you made it with a big piece of paper or a square made from like a regular printer size piece of paper, you could probably wear it. But I think mine's maybe cat sized. You'll have to let me know. All right, so you guys want to see this one more time? Yeah, so that one's still pretty quick. I might have to make more squares at some point. We can do one more hat. All right, so first step, fold it in half diagonally. Second step is fold these flaps up to the top to make our helmet base. And then once we have this, you're going to I turned it over, taking these flaps and folding them up to meet the top. And then we're going to take these flaps you just folded and fold them out about halfway. So there's a little point that sticks out. Do the same on the other side. Once you have that, you're going to take the front flap at the bottom and fold it up, not quite all the way to the top, so leaving a little bit of space like that. Fold that down at the bottom. Then you're going to take this part that's left at the bottom and fold that up to meet the edges right there. And then very last step, flip it over and fold up that last flap. So you just have a triangle, and then open it up at the bottom and you have a hat. So that is the samurai helmet model. And now those were kind of the, I don't know if I'd say like beginner level, but those were the easier ones that I pulled. And now we're going to move on to, let's see, do you guys want to do just a classic origami crane next, or do you guys want to do a jumping frog? So the jumping frog that's the one that's a little bit trickier if you have thicker paper. So I can do it with printer paper, but it's really best to do it with origami paper. So would you guys want to save that one for the end and move on to the crane, or do you guys want to make some frogs? If you have a preference, you can just put that into chat.
I want to do the crane.
Okay. Gabby votes for crane. Anyone else have a preference?
Crane.
All right. One more minute, or I guess 15 more seconds to get your votes in. But it looks like crane is winning. 5.
Can we do the llama?
I actually don't know how to make a llama. I could see if I could find a model, but it would be my first time, so I don't know how good of a teacher I would be. But yeah, if you can find a link to a llama, I could see what I could do. Yeah, most of these are just, with the exception of the crane, and then if we get to the stars at the end, these are all ones that I learned online just from looking up like, I wonder if I could make an origami dinosaur, which is the last one we're gonna do. Yeah, so you can find pretty much everything online if you're willing to put a little bit of work in to learn it. But yeah, it looks like we're starting with the crane. So once again, regular square paper, and then I already have the first crease done because I made this out of printer paper, because you're folding it diagonally. And so these first folds that we're actually going to do, you're going to be creasing it, so making sure you have a nice sharp line in there, and then unfolding it, because these are kind of going to be guidelines for the first couple of steps. So you're actually going to be folding it diagonally, and then folding it diagonally again, and making another nice crease. And I am going to be moving my hands up and down a lot, so I can use like I can use the table to make a crease. So you should have something like this. Now you want to actually flip it over once you have those two creases. So it's kind of pointing up. You're going to kind of invert that. So it's maybe looks like a little bit of a bowl, and you're actually going to fold it horizontally in the opposite direction of the diagonal creases. So you want the diagonal creases to be up. They're called, it's called like a mountain fold when it's up like this, and a valley fold when it's up like this. So you want both of the diagonal creases to be mountain folds, and then you're going to be folding the horizontal creases in the opposite direction as valley folds. And once again, you're going to be doing it one way, unfolding it, and then doing it the other way. So once you've done all that, you should have something that looks like this. Does everyone have their starting creases all done? All right, so this is actually the starting point for two different bases. You'll notice that if you have, so right now I have the horizontal folds as mountain folds and the diagonal folds as valley folds. So if you don't have it set like this, you're gonna wanna kind of invert the model, so kind of pop it the other way. So it's like this. And then if you take the four corners and move them into the middle, you should have something a little bit like this. And you're just gonna want to flatten that. So you have one square with two flaps on each side. And this is, I forget what this one is called, but this is another one of the classic origami bases that a lot of different models start with. Yeah, so you might notice that so Jessica actually, that's a water bomb base. That's the other way. If you actually open that up and kind of pop it so the folds are going the other direction and fold it in that way, then you'll have a square instead of a triangle. So if you take all the corners and push them into the middle, then you'll end up with a square. Yeah, cool. And you're gonna wanna make sure that you have two flaps on each side, that you didn't actually fold it so it's 3 in 1. All right, so once everyone has their little square, or not so little, I guess, depending on the size paper that you're using. Oh, welcome to those that I didn't see at the beginning. I also totally didn't introduce myself. Hi, I'm Lara. I worked at CYJ Midwest for several years, and now unfortunately I do not, but I can still do this. So welcome to those of you I didn't say hi to before. So now the first step for this is you're going to take just the outside flap, the one closest to you, and you're going to fold it into the middle like this. And you want to match that up with the center crease as well as you can.
Lara, do we want the closed side or the open side upwards?
Oh, that's really important. Yes, you want the closed side pointing up and the open side with all the flaps pointing down. So you actually, the point, once you've made this fold, should be on the open side. So yeah, I have the closed side pointing up. Thanks, Gabby. And then once you have that, you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just fold this in to meet the middle. And then once you have that done, you're actually going to flip it over and do the same thing to make kind of like a kite shape. So for those of you overachievers, you can go ahead and get started on that. Yeah, looking good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get the other side going. And this is a model where the exactness of the folds can make a pretty big difference in what your final product turns out to be. Also, this is the type of thing where the first time you make it, it's probably not going to look that good. I've made hundreds and hundreds of these cranes. Yeah, looking good. All right, so does everyone have their little kite?
I still have a bunch of, I still have like 7 of the like 100 cranes you made in my office at camp.
In my office at work, I make cranes out of all of our used Post-it notes because we use Post-it notes a lot in the lab, and I have over 200 that I've made in the year and a half that I've been working there. It's exciting. We make people guess how many there are. But yeah, so now that you have your little kite, this is, in my opinion, it's the hardest part. So what you're going to want to do to prep for this is, this isn't the hard part. You're just going to fold this point down to meet the middle, crease it and unfold it. And then you're going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. These are just folds that are going to make the next step a little bit easier. So once you've done that, what you're actually going to do, starting on one side, you're going to unfold these flaps. You're going to take the first layer from the bottom and lift it up. And what I find easiest to do is keep pinching at the top where you just folded and make sure like that crease is staying in place. You're going to pull that corner, pull this corner up to the top and invert the folds that you just made on the flaps. So if you do this correctly, it should look like this. All right, yeah, and I can also do that one more time real quick, although because I've already made these folds, it's going to look way easier than it actually is. So the important thing about this is you're not actually making any new folds, you're just inverting folds you've already made. So you're going to keep this part, pinch the top, keep this part folded, lift this corner up, and then these two folds at the top to make the diamond, you're just folding the opposite direction of how they were folded before. So you're left with a diamond on one side that's kind of open in the middle. And then once you have that, you're gonna flip it over and do the exact same thing. There's a lot of symmetry in this model. So once again, you're just going to open up those flaps, lift up this sheet at the bottom, hold the top to keep that fold in place, and then invert these two folds. So it's a nice flat diamond on both sides. And you'll notice that one side is, it's hard to say the open side and the closed side. One side is kind of like, I'd say the leg side. where it's open in the middle, like two little legs, and that's the part that you want pointing down for this next part. So make sure you have the leg side pointing down. Is everyone at this point, or do you want another couple of seconds? All right. So now for the next step, this is very similar to a step we did at the beginning with the leg side, I guess is what we're calling it. You're just going to take these flaps and fold them to meet the middle, just like you did before, just now it's a bit of a thinner diamond. So here, that's not very neat. You're folding that top flap in to meet the middle. And some of you might have guessed that you're going to do this 4 times. So I just did this side, taking this top flap, folding it in to meet the middle. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Take this top flap and fold it in to meet the middle. I have to look at it to actually make it look nice.
Wait, Lara, the leg side is down or the other side is down?
The leg side is down. So it's the leg side that you're folding in. That is definitely not the technical term for that, but it's what we're going with today. And those of you STAR students who've already done that part, you flip it over and do the same on the other side if you want to work ahead. But if you've only done one side, it should look like a big diamond with a little diamond in the middle, kind of. Now I'm going to go ahead and do it on the other side. Yep, those are looking good. So now you should have one long skinny diamond that still has a leg side and a top side. Yeah, looking good. It's like everyone's there. All right, so now what we're gonna do is you're going to take, so you'll notice that on the side, there's kind of 2 flaps. What we want to do is take the inside of these flaps and you want that to be on the outside. So what you're kind of gonna wanna do is fold both of these top parts in to meet each other and then do the same on the other side. So it should now look, I think this looks kind of like some sort of very skinny dog or something. So the parts that used to be on the outside are now folded up into the inside flaps. And now we have something like this. Yep, looking good. All right. So now we're on the last couple of steps. We're almost there. So once you have this very skinny dog face, you'll notice that there's still kind of a leg side on the bottom. It's just facing the other way. So you're going to take one of those legs and fold it up to meet the top. And then once you have that, you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So take this last flap at the bottom and fold it up to meet the top. All right, looking good. Looks like everyone's good on this part. So now we're kind of going to repeat that step where we made the inside of the flaps become the outside. So we're going to fold these two sides in, and then do the same on the other side. So you might notice right now, depending on how you, I guess how close your folds were together, you're going to have these two little pointy parts. And those pointy parts are actually the head and the tail of the crane. So once you've done that part, you can just take these and, I guess, pull them out to where you like them. And then I always take, I see which one looks better. I leave that one as the tail, and then this one's kind of crumpled at the top, so I'm gonna make that the head. So I'm just going to fold it over like this. So now our crane has a head. And then the last step is just take the tip part at the top, those are the wings, and pull them out. And you have yourself a crane. I really like pulling the wings out so the body kind of puffs up a little bit. I think they look really good that way. Some people like to keep it like folded up flat. That's fine too. But yeah, those are real nice cranes. I have some that are made out of colored plastic too that I think are fun. I have a bunch of cranes everywhere because I like making them out of everything. But yeah. So that was a bit of a longer one. Do you guys want to go over this one more time? No? You want to move on? We can come back to the cranes at the end. So the last model that I had prepared is a dinosaur. It is my personal favorite. This is my example. They look super cool, in my opinion. But they're a little bit tricky. So if you could get the crane, you can, I believe in you, you can get this, but we're gonna go over a certain type of fold at first, just to make sure when I say, now we're gonna do a reverse fold, you guys all aren't like, what are you talking about? So for this, I'm just using like a scrap of paper to demonstrate. So I'm just gonna fold this diagonally. Maybe I should have used a square for this, but we'll push through. So now that I've made this fold, let's say I wanted to reverse part of the fold. What that means is I'm going to pop this in. So there's kind of two ways to do it. One of them is just to take this and fold this inside, and we'll be doing that. So what I did is I took this fold that I'd made here and I inverted it. I made part of it go in the opposite direction. And then I just made two creases. So that's one type of reverse fold. And then the other type of reverse fold is doing the same thing, but in the other direction. So kind of going to flip it instead of in, I'm going to flip it inside out to make kind of like something like this. These aren't meant to look pretty. This is just an example of what we're going to be doing. So I've just taken, maybe you can also like pre-crease this to make it a little bit easier. So I'm making a crease right here, unfolding it, and then I'm just reversing all of those folds. So this piece of paper is pointing in the opposite direction. So I've just made that little flap like that. So that's called a reverse fold. And this last model that we're going to be doing has a couple of those. So the cool thing about the dinosaur is the start is exactly the same as the crane. So you're going to start by making that same base, folding the paper diagonally, and then diagonally again.
Ari, yeah, Mom?
And then flipping the paper over, kind of popping it in, and then doing the two horizontal folds. So you should have something like this. And you want to make sure the corners are pointing down. So if everyone could hold it up once you've got your creases done so I can see where we are. Some of you are overachieving. Yeah, so we're gonna fold this to make the same base we did before. So you want the corners pointing down, move them into the middle, and flatten them out. And actually the next part is the same.
Just so you know, we have about 3 minutes till we have to work when we wrap up.
Oh no, all right. So I can actually post the links to how I made this in the chat afterwards. So if we don't end up finishing the dinosaur, you guys can try to finish it on your own. The rest of this is also, or next couple of steps are also the same as the crane, where you're gonna fold these sides into the middle. Yeah, they actually both start with a bird base, which is that big rectangle, or not rectangle, the big diamond that we made. That's kind of the middle step for the crane. I'm gonna go ahead and get that link in the chat for all of you.
We do it on the front and back side, right?
Yes, you want to do that on the front and the back. And then same as before, once you have those folds done, you're going to crease that top part down. Same on the other side. And then open up and invert the folds. And this is actually called a bird base, which is fun because, you know, birds are descended from dinosaurs, so it's pretty fitting that we use it.
Yeah.
So once you have your bird base, if you could hold it up, or if you want me to go over any of those steps again, I can do that too.
Can you do from the diamond part to the bird base?
Yeah. So I'm gonna leave one side like this. So you're just going to open this up, hold it at the top where you made that fold, take the bottom flap, push it up, and then just kind of invert the folds you've already made to make a nice flat diamond. And then the same on the other side. Thank you. Yeah, because we'll maybe get 1 or 2 more steps in, I think, before this has to end, unfortunately. But yeah, the next step is actually just taking one of the flaps, not from the leg side, but from the other side, and folding that down to meet the leg side. Oops. So it should look like this. Should still look like a diamond on one side and look like this on the other side. Ooh, so if you still have your starting base, let me see what I can do real quick. Also, feel free to, now that I posted the instructions for this, it starts with the bird base, but it has a link to how you can make the bird base. So you should be able to find all those instructions. Yeah, so if you have this, once you have your square with 2 flaps on each side, to make the bird base, you're folding, the first step is folding all of these flaps into the middle like this, on one side and then the other. But for those of you who already have the base, once you folded one side down, you're then going to fold this perfectly as you can in half. I've made a ton of these and mine are never perfect. So you should have kind of one big skinny triangle that should be smooth on the outside, but it should have one side that has a hole. It should have like 3 flaps like this, and then one side that's just one flap.
Can you go back?
And then for those of you who are still working on the base, so once you have
It's almost over though.
all the sides folded in, the same as for the crane, you're going to fold this top part over, and then again on the other side. And then from here, you're going to open it. Yeah, right now I'm just going back over how to make the bird base for a couple of people. And you're going to kind of fold the folds you already had here, fold these creases in the opposite direction so it lays flat like this. And then you're going to do the same on the other side. So for those of you who have this triangle, you want, so I have, this is my 1 flap side over here, and this is my 3 flap side. You want to take the one end, I have the point of the triangle pointing down. So now we're going to do one of those reverse folds. So we're going to kind of pop this part up a little bit like that. So what I'm doing is I'm holding my finger down right here, and I'm pushing up. So it's kind of sticking up like that. So I've inverted this top part of the fold. And then I'm going to kind of push the model back together. So now I've made these 2 new folds right here.
Right.
And I have this part that's sticking up.
We have about 35 seconds until the meeting.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
All right, so for those of you who do have, this was Origami Dinosaur Step 4 on the page I just sent out. So hopefully you guys will be able to finish up by yourselves. Sorry about that.
Also in the chat, can you post something for the jumping frog?
Oh, yeah. I can actually put links to all of these in the chat real quick. So this one is the frog. I don't actually have the crane pulled up because that's the only one that I have memorized, but that's also something you'll be able to find all over the internet. Just the classic origami crane. That's the wolf. And
all these will be posted on the Instagram page as well.
Okay, perfect.
And you can replay this whole video with all the links on YouTube as well.
And that is the helmet. And the origamiinstructions.com, that's, I think it's a wonderful website. I use it all the time when I'm looking for new stuff to make. So yeah, thank all of you guys for coming. I hope you made some cool stuff. I'd love to see pictures of your hats on, I don't know, your pets, your friends, your stuffed animals. Because that's what I'll be doing with mine. And this was a lot of fun. I hope you guys had fun too. It's good to see a bunch of you guys again. It's been a while.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.